That's what I am.
Oh my. Is there anything worse than having a bad day and then having to talk about a book you couldn't stand? Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure there could be something worse, but right now, that's my bad day. Oh, gosh. Anyways, excuse me. Today we're talking about Wicked King by Holly Black, and if you've kept up with any of my other reviews, you know my feelings about this series. I was underwhelmed by The Cruel Prince. I did not have high expectations for the second one because the first one was so disappointing, but I had higher expectations because that's what people told me, is that, the first one was kind of meh, but then it really picks up in The Wicked King. I couldn't even make it halfway before I skipped to the end, and while I did see a couple things that I liked in the end, overall I still felt like the main character Jude was incredibly underwhelming, just like the whole book. I thought she needed a lot of work. I thought she was just lackluster. There was nothing about her that I felt deserved to make her the protagonist. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this series, it basically revolves around Jude, who's a human, but she's been raised in the world of Fae. The first book kind of deals with that introduction of her life, and then this one moves into her role as the Royal Sentinel, which is like the right-hand man to the king. So in the first book, we ended with her crowning or having Cardan, who is the Cruel Prince. We end with her having him crowned. She tricks him into being crowned. And then now it's like, I guess, his development into the king and then her role as his right-hand man. The whole drama about it, though, is that she has made him pledge to her, like, for a year and a day. She basically has complete reign over him. Like, she can make him do what she wants. So she kind of struggles with how to do that in the best way, and also seeing what he does and how he's developing as a king, and then her worry that she needs more time with him under her control. Because the deal was, she has a half-brother, not even a half-brother, like... Okay, so her background is, she's human, as I said, but her mother had married a fae and had gotten pregnant, but she wanted out, so she faked her death, went to the human realm, got married, and had Jude and her twin sister Taryn. So, very beginning of The Cruel Prince, this ex of hers, Madoc, comes, murders both of the parents, takes all the girls back to Fae. So he has also remarried, and they have a son named Oak. We learn that Oak is not actually theirs, but it is the son of one of the princes. And so in fairy law, the king can only be crowned by blood. So in the first book, one of the princes wants to rule, so he kills the royal family, except for one, Cardan, who just by chance wasn't there. When Jude discovers that Oak is actually royal, she is like, well, I want him to be king, but he's not ready because he's just a kid, so I'm going to have him crown Cardan. In Wicked King, she's like, he's still not ready. How can I get basically 10 more years of Cardan servitude? And that's kind of it. I'm sure there's a whole lot more plot to the book, because obviously she has dealings with the brother Baelkin, who had tried to commit genocide, or not genocide, but he committed patricide because he killed his dad. He tried to wipe out his family so he could be king. Anyways, so, there is a bit of him, because he got put in the Tower of Forgetting instead of, hung or not murdered, but killed or whatnot. So anyway, so he is plotting and scheming, and that is in conjunction with Queen Orla, who's Queen of the Sea. So she is also an antagonist, and what she wants is for her daughter Nicasia to marry Cardan. Of course, that is a no-go, because Orla is untrustworthy, so to have then Nicasia marry Cardan and be queen of the overworld, as well as have ties to the queen of the sea, that's just not the best route to go. So, there are other elements, but on the whole, those were outside of Jude. And just like with The Cruel Prince, I just felt like everything was outside of Jude. She had all of these internal problems that she never dealt with. Like, she just dealt with whatever came her way instead of acting and creating a force instead of just reacting to outside forces. So I got to, honestly, this book was so not mind-numbingly boring. I can't even tell you. It was not halfway, but I can't tell you what was happening when I decided to skip forward. But when I skipped forward, she had, so as I said, Queen Orla wants Nicasia to marry Cardan. And she, in I guess retribution for him saying no, she captures Jude and holds Jude captive for like a month. So I came in right when Jude was being released. And apparently in order for Jude to be released, Cardan agreed that Orla could attack one of the courts. So that is something that had been done. And in the first book, in order for Jude to be successful in her plan, she needed to form alliances. So the court that was attacked was one of her alliances, and in order to gain this alliance, she had promised a favor. So they asked her to kill Baelken because he is also the ambassador for the Undersea. So he has all this power now. Obviously, he's out of the Tower Forgetting, but she's like, I can't do that because I guess she's against murder, which she's already murdered people, though not necessarily by choice, but by necessity. So that has happened, and I think I even skipped ahead a little bit more. But what I can tell you is that, spoilers, alright, so she's been captured, she gets out, and then, yes, I totally skipped forward. So somehow there's a party, a ball, a revelry. Cardan gets poisoned, and so she then has to figure out a way to save him, and in order to do that, she has to go to Baelken, and she tricks him into giving her the antidote, but then they also duel, and she kills him. She brings she has given the antidote to one of her allies, and so then she returns back to Cardan, and she learns that he has given her a boon, and she's like, what are you talking about? I have not changed my dress, I did not ask you for anything, and it turns out that Taryn, her twin sister, has tricked Cardan into pardoning Madoc, because he was also part of the plot to overthrow the king with Baelken. He has pardoned Madoc, and now Madoc is off to do whatever he's going to do so that he can have ultimate power, and Taryn ran away with him. She had married a fairy called Locke. Yes, Locke. I'm sorry. It's painful to remember this story and all the characters. So she had married Locke, but he's not a good dude, and so I guess she left him behind. Here's a huge spoiler. I don't know if it actually happened in this book or the next, but she does end up killing Locke. So maybe she's killed Locke in this book. I'm not sure. All I know is she tricked Cardan into giving Madoc a pardon, and so now they're off to do what they're going to do. Of course, Jude feels betrayed by her twin sister. Not necessarily by Madoc, but maybe by Madoc. Again, there's a bunch of stuff I missed because I could have cared less. But she has a love-hate relationship with Madoc because he did kill her parents. But then again, he did raise her. However, she never felt like he loved her, and she was always trying to impress him. So it's kind of like she does love him, but she hates him, but she respects him. She wants to impress him. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. But then it's revealed, Cardan was like, she could have ordered him to do it. She did not need to exert any other kind of power, and he's like, do you not realize that there are all kinds of things that I could have picked up on if I wasn't trying to prove to you, as in thinking Taryn was she, that I trusted you, because they have this really weird relationship, because he has a love-hate relationship towards Jude. He hates her because she's human, and then he hates himself because he finds him attracted to her, but she's human, so he hates her, and he hates himself for that. He also hates the fact that she had this great home life, whereas he did not, even though hers was not that great, but still, it's not like she was being beaten. She just wasn't necessarily loved the way we would expect to be loved by our parents, and he despises her for tricking him into becoming king. He despises her for tricking her into being not loyal, but into kind of being under her will. So he says, look, so while this whole book, she's been scheming a way to elongate her power over him, he's like, how about you just let me out? Like, I know it's not been a year and a day, but how about you let me out? And she's like, are you serious? I don't really understand any of this, probably because I could care less, and so I have not paid much attention to the actual plot lines, but he ends up getting her to release him in favor of marrying him, and because he claims that as queen, she has much more power than she would ever have as just having a finite amount of time to get him to bend to her will. So, then we end with her being banished, which leads into the last book of the installment, which Lord knows I may never get to. I only got through this one because I was so sick and tired of trying to get through it that I just skipped the end because it was never going to happen if I had to get through the whole thing. But anyways, that was a sideline back to Queen of Nothing. Hence the title, because she has been banished because she killed Baelkin. Why that's a big deal, I don't know, because Baelkin is the one who abused Cardan. Maybe it's because they are family that he feels this sort of attachment and loyalty. I don't know. But yes, so Orla, because Baelkin was her ambassador, she comes up and she's like, Jude did it. Jude needs to be punished. So then Cardan is like, did you do it? And she says, we dueled and I won. And he's like, well, your punishment is banishment. Which throws her for a loop, and it makes her extremely angry. And it's probably one of the only times that I really felt connected to her, because I feel like she's so neutral. The entire book, she's just so apathetic. She just sits and waits. And maybe other people like that kind of a protagonist. I do not. I like someone who does something, who's proactive. So she's like, you can't do that. I'm the queen. And of course everybody starts laughing at her. I'm still not sure if they're laughing at her because it's a ludicrous idea that Cardan would actually marry a human, or if they're laughing because there's no such thing as a queen. I mean, I know there are queens, so I feel like that's not the right assumption, and especially because she grew up in Fairy, and she is a very intelligent person, so I feel like she's not going to accept his bargain without having thought it through, without having some understanding of how it could work for her. We end the human realm where she is now living with Vivi, her half-sister, who is actually part Fae, who was the one that the mother ran away with when she was pregnant. Anyway, so she's living with her and Oak, and she, it's kind of the beginning of her scheming. She's like, figuring out how she can get back to Fae and get back to her place and get back at Cardan. So, I just can't, guys, with this book. Now that I've gotten the basic plot, or what I remember of it, what I cared to learn, I will, I have mentioned my problem with Jude is that she just doesn't do anything. She has great plans that I feel she never follows through with, but there were two instances that I already mentioned. One, when she was angry at being banished. But the other instance that I connected with her and I really felt like I could get behind her was when she killed Baelkin. Because she had a choice and she made it. My problem with her is she always is too worried or too concerned about making the right choice, which I know that sounds really crazy. Like, we should always want to make the right choices. However, it's like it's the game of power, it's the game of royalty, it's the game of anybody who, I guess, just, it all comes back to power. You know, you always have to make the right political move. Maybe it's more about politics, the power. But she's always so worried about doing the wrong thing because of the effect it will have on some other aspect of her world or of the story. And so she does nothing. She just continues to think until something else falls in her lap. Well, when it comes to killing Baelkin, she was at a disadvantage because his weapon outmatched hers, and so she had to use her own wit and skill to defeat him. She knew she shouldn't kill him, she did not want to kill him, but she had no other choice, and so she did it. And then this is really what gets me, because honestly, that's how, the only time she's ever done anything is because she had no choice. And that's my problem, is that she just lets it come to her until there is no other option but to follow through with it. What I loved about her killing Baelkin, she walked away like a bomb. Like, it was like, yeah, I did it. What are you gonna do about it? And I have no remorse. And I'm just like, that is a bad chick. That's someone I can get behind, which is just not her MO for the entire book. And I feel like with the writing, that also is, the story suffers from the writing, not because it's bad writing, not because it's poorly executed, but because it's so flowery, and in many ways, it really helps world build. It helps set the tone and make this world of Fae realistic, because it is beautiful language, but at the same time, there are a lot of seems and appears and looks. Like, can't something actually be? Why does it have to appear a certain way? Can't it just be that way? Or even just all these descriptions. Like, do I really need to know what every single character in the story looks like? No, I really don't. If they're unimportant, why does their appearance matter? I mean, I already know we're in another kind of realm, dealing with different kinds of creatures. They're not human, so I can imagine, without being told that they're blue-skinned, that they're going to have an alternate skin color. I don't always have to know if they have a tail, or if they have pointy ears, or horns, or whatever. Like, I just don't need to know, and I feel like that really gets in the way of the story, because she just takes too much time from the forward momentum. God, this book, I know I say that all the time, but this is one of those books that I cannot figure out why people love it so much. I was talking to someone on Instagram, because every time someone posts about a book I did not like, I always kind of want to pick their brains. So I asked them, like, what do you think, or why did you like it? And she was saying that with this one, she thought it was really slow. Like, even in the first one, she thought, like, the twists and turns were great. I was like, what twists and turns? There were no twists and turns. The only twist we really had, I guess technically there were two. That Locke was messing with Jude. He was actually dating or in a relationship with Taryn. And with Taryn's knowledge, he then started to pursue Jude. So that was a twist, that we find out that he was just messing with her. But the real twist was that she got Oak to crown Cardan rather than Cardan crown Oak. So sure, there were some twists, but in this one, maybe I missed the twist because I skipped like 50% of the novel. Not even, I skipped like 75% of the novel, because I think I was like 40% of the way through the novel before I skipped, and then I was like, alright, because I was listening to it on the audiobook, so I was like, so how many tracks does it have? If it has 117 tracks, I'll go to 110. So, yeah, like, I skipped the majority of the novel because it was mind-numbing. I was like, when is something going to happen? When is Jude gonna stop walking around, letting people do things to her, just taking it in? When is she going to do something? It's not even when is something gonna happen, but when is Jude going to be part of the action? Like, when is she gonna be worthy of the protagonist status? Anyways, so she was saying that this one really got going around the midpoint because there were more twists that she just thought were fantastic. And please tell me if you're watching this and you've read the book, like, what is she talking about? You know, when is the real point of engagement? Because for me, there was no engagement till she killed till she killed Belkin. And that's at the end. Okay, so that reminds me, when I, saying Locke instead of Belkin, Taryn was one of my, not favorite, I had no favorite characters in the first book or the second book, but she was one of the characters that I felt were more intriguing, that they had more depth to them, and I feel like she pretty much carried that through this book too, because there was a prophecy, or not prophecy, but somebody had told her that she was going to be betrayed, and so maybe it was, or had been betrayed already. Maybe that was Taryn they were referring to. I don't really know. Obviously, she betrays Jude in the end. As much as I want to punch Taryn in the face for fooling Cardan, I like the fact that she is sneaky. That she's doing what Jude won't. She has an agenda, and she's going to follow through with it. Especially because out of the two, she does seem to be the meeker twin. And on that note, Cardan. I always wanted to like him, and I kind of liked him in the first one. Like Taryn, I felt like he had more layers than other characters did. I don't feel like we got to see them very well or very much. And in this one, again, you want to punch him in the face for betraying Jude, which, why do I want to punch anyone in the face for betraying a character I could care less about? Probably because she's the MC, and the MC is not supposed to be duped every single time. Anyways, I'm very passionate today because I just hate this book so much. But I really liked that he seemed, obviously there's a lot I missed, but he seemed to step up to the plate at being king, and then in the end, he had his own agenda again. Like, Jude, this whole book, is trying to figure out how she can have control, but everybody else around her is really the one with control. They are the ones who are getting what they want, and they're tricking her into that. Of course, I was skeptical when he's like, be my queen, and I couldn't believe she gave into it, especially because then she's saying, we traded kisses through the night. There'd always been this underlying romance. Obviously, from the first book, we learn that, his feelings for her, are hate-love, but he does have feelings for her. There's not a whole lot in the second book, well, in the first 40% of that, but it really bothered me where she's like, okay, I'll be queen, and then yes, I'm gonna get in your bed and we're gonna make out all night. But, it's like all part of his plan, all part of his plot. And so, I'm worried this entire time, like how many pages it actually is. And then he turns it around on her. And I'm like, how did you not see that coming? But I love it. Because he's got strength. He's got the strength of character that Jude lacks. I don't know when I'll get to the Queen of Nothing, but that is something I do look forward to. I do look forward to seeing what kind of comeuppance any of these characters get. Jude, I feel like, has zero character development in 2 books. And that's because there's a lot of like and appears and seems. Like, there's no actual being. There's no is. So how can she evolve when there's no concrete action? When everything just seems to be a certain way. Anyways, but I do want to see what goes on with Taryn. Like, is she remorseful? If she hadn't killed Locke in this book, how does she feel when she does kill Locke? How does that come about? Cardan, how is he? Because I know how the series ends, because we all know that I Googled this junk. I know how it ends. But somebody writing it out in summary is different than the writing it out as a book. A lot that you do miss, especially, it reminds me of the show Once Upon a Time, where you cannot read the wiki page because it's so convoluted. Like, you have to go through it with the characters to understand how everything fits together. And that's kind of how it is with these books, where you can't get a full understanding just by reading Wikipedia. There's a lot of layers that you can only fully grasp by reading. But yeah, so I really would like to know about Cardan's evolution and how he and Jude end up where they end up. This book, like, I dread doing a review for it every single time. I mean, it's only been 2 books, but it feels like much, or many, many more than that. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you really like this review or not, if you think I did a good job. Obviously, there's a lot I couldn't do because I just could not make it through the book. Anyways, so have a great day, and I hope your reading is more successful than mine. Bye.